What if what Mary didn't say was even more powerful than the words that have reached us? Think for a moment. How many times in your life has someone's silence spoken louder than any sentence? Perhaps it was a look that needed no explanation, a simple gesture that carried a promise, or even a moment of stillness that left your heart restless for days. Now, imagine that this silence comes from the mother of Jesus, a silence that is not empty, but charged with love, warning, and a profound call to transformation. Have you ever experienced this? In Medjugorje, where the faithful and the curious have gathered for decades to hear and experience the messages Mary conveys, there is a mystery that few dare to openly address. The unrevealed messages. There are 7 hidden treasures, known only to a few, but which resonate like an invisible echo in the hearts of those who open themselves to faith. It's not about spoken words, but about something hovering in the air, something that awakens questions, shivers, and a strange sense of urgency. What you'll discover now may surprise you. This echo is not like the ordinary sound that fades into the wind. It lingers, it pulsates, it mingles with your prayers, your doubts, your tears in the silent dawns. Many pilgrims claim that, even without hearing a specific message, they felt guided, touched, and transformed by Mary's simple presence. It's as if, in the space between the words, there is a secret code that only the heart in prayer can decipher. But why would Mary choose silence? Why leave unanswered some of the most agonizing questions about the future, about the Great Tribulation, about the destiny of humanity? Perhaps because silence is not absence. Perhaps it is the purest way to lead us within ourselves, so that we can find, in intimacy with God, the answers we seek. Stay with me until the end, because together we will explore the meaning and power of this silence. Some say these unrevealed messages carry warnings for times yet to come, a heavenly script that prepares hearts for decisive events. Others believe that silence itself is the message, an invitation to personal conversion, to life change, to spiritual preparation. Either way, the point is that this echo of love continues to reverberate. It arrives subtly in a dream, in a biblical reading that seems to speak directly to you, in a sense of peace amidst chaos. And when it arrives, you know it. If you've ever experienced that moment when you felt God speaking through a silence charged with presence, you'll understand exactly what we're talking about. It's not just about understanding with the mind, but about feeling it in the soul. Like the gentle tolling of a distant bell, this echo awakens, invites, stirs something deep within us. And, if we pay attention, we can perceive that this inner sound always leads us to the same place, to God's never-failing love, to the embrace of a mother who never abandons her children. Now, before we continue, imagine yourself standing in that small village, feeling the breeze, listening to the stories, seeing faces that shine not for what they heard, but for what they felt. It is into this scenario that we will delve deeper, because the echo of Mary's love is not just a mystery to be admired. It is a call to be lived, and that is where the true journey begins. And as you let these images and feelings find a place in your heart, I want to extend a simple but important invitation. If what I've said so far resonates with you, if this echo of Mary's love has somehow touched your life, leave a comment below with what resonated most with you. It could be an experience you've had, a memory that's just come back to you, or even a question that's arisen within you. Reading what you share not only helps me understand what resonates most with you, but also creates a space where others can identify and feel they're not alone on this journey. And since we're building this journey together, liking this video and subscribing to the channel is a concrete way to show that this content is valuable to you. It's through these actions that the message can go further, reaching hearts that may need this very word today. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and continue producing reflections like this, which connect us with the faith, hope, and love of Mary. So, if you feel like this conversation is awakening something within you, click the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so we can follow along for future posts. And in the meantime, let's continue delving into this mystery, because there's still more to discover about how these unspoken words continue to silently guide us. Medjugorje is one of those places that, at first glance, might seem like just a small village in the interior of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Simple streets, modest houses, hills surrounding the horizon. But on June 24, 1981, this inconspicuous setting became the stage for one of the most remarkable spiritual phenomena of the modern era. On that day, 6 young people claimed to have seen the Virgin Mary. It was not just a fleeting vision, but a vivid encounter, charged with presence, that radically changed the course of their lives and that of the village itself. What began as an event reserved for a select few soon spread throughout the world. Pilgrims from all over began arriving, driven by curiosity, faith, or a need for answers they couldn't find anywhere else. Reports of profound conversions, inexplicable healings, and transformative spiritual experiences began to circulate. The atmosphere of the place became so unique that many describe Medjugorje as a place where heaven seems to touch earth. The Catholic Church, with its careful investigation of events of this nature, did not immediately take a position. Years of observation, interviews, and analysis followed, seeking to separate genuine devotion from exaggerations or distortions. In 2017, a Vatican report offered partial recognition, stating that the first 7 days of the apparitions had consistent and credible elements. This position did not end the debate, but it opened the way for thousands of faithful to continue their pilgrimages with a new weight of credibility. The most curious thing is that, since that first encounter, the apparitions have repeated themselves with a constancy that defies time and logic. The visionaries, now adults, report that Mary continues to appear, bringing messages of prayer, conversion, fasting, forgiveness, and peace. But amid these communications, there are also mentions of 7 secrets or 7 unrevealed messages, remain silent to this day. It is precisely in this silence that the greatest mystery lies. The fact that something so important has not been shared publicly arouses a special kind of attention. It's not just curiosity, but the feeling that something is being prepared for a specific moment, perhaps a time of global decision, a turning point in humanity's spiritual history. Many believe these secrets are linked to future events, possibly difficult ones, but ones that will bring with them a profound call to faith and unity. This scenario also exposes a hidden truth about the spiritual journey. We're not always ready to hear everything. Sometimes, maturity must come before revelation. It's like a teacher who withholds the most challenging lesson until his students are ready to absorb it. And in the case of Mary's messages, preparation occurs not only in the intellect, but in the heart, in the mindset, in the ability to live coherently with the faith professed. Walking the streets of Medjugorje is like stepping behind the scenes of a story still being written. You'll find candles lit before images, groups praying the rosary in different languages, and pilgrims walking barefoot to the top of Mount Podbrdo, where the first apparition was reported. Every detail carries symbolic weight. Every gesture seems part of a silent choreography, spanning decades. But there's also an undeniable personal impact for those who approach this phenomenon. Many people arrive there broken inside, seeking strength for difficult decisions or trying to find meaning in profound losses and pain. And, mysteriously, the environment seems to respond. It's not uncommon to hear reports that a prayer offered there resonated differently, bringing clarity, peace, or courage to change their lives. This combination of mystery, devotion, and expectation is what keeps Medjugorje alive in the hearts of so many. It's not just a dot on the map, but a symbol of hope in turbulent times. A reminder that, even amidst uncertainty, there is a loving presence that watches us, accompanies us, and prepares us for something greater. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because understanding the context of these apparitions is just the gateway to something much broader. The way messages, revealed or otherwise, can shape our worldview, influence our choices, and completely transform the way we perceive our own spiritual journey. And it is in this deep dive that we can begin to truly feel the echo of love that spans generations and continues to call us by name. Even in silence. Comment there. I'm on this journey too. There is something profoundly mysterious and transformative about words that are not spoken. It is as if silence, when charged with intention, has the power to penetrate the barriers of reason and reach directly to the heart. In spirituality, this silent message is not an absence of communication, but rather a more refined, almost secret way of conveying something that cannot be fully captured by phrases or explanations. It is an invitation to inner listening, to deep reflection, and requires of us an openness that goes far beyond hear and it must feel. Think about how many times in life a simple look, a touch, or even the absence of a gesture has been more eloquent than any speech. There are situations where speech becomes limited, where each word could actually diminish the power of what one wants to convey. This is where silence, this space between one sentence and the next, becomes fertile ground for something greater to blossom within us. In the context of Marian apparitions, this silence takes on an even more intense dimension, because it's not just about not saying anything, it's about revealing without speaking, about letting one's presence carry the weight of the message. In Medjugorje, and in so many other places where Mary is venerated, accounts from the faithful describe experiences that involve no direct words, but that leave lasting marks. It's as if the simple act of being before that loving presence creates an internal shift, a realignment of mindset and priorities. This kind of communication is not captured by the ears, but by the soul and, therefore, can be even more impactful. The power of a silent message lies precisely in the space it leaves for each person to complete it with their own story, their memories, and their pain. It's like a spiritual mirror. The closer you get, the more you see reflected within yourself what needs to be transformed. And this is something no prepared speech or well-constructed argument can achieve. The spoken word can be forgotten. The felt silence cannot. This is the kind of communication that requires spiritual maturity to be understood. Those who seek only quick answers often fail to grasp what is being conveyed. It is necessary to slow down, remove themselves from the constant noise of the world and allow themselves to be present in body, mind, and spirit. It is in this state that the silent message reveals itself, not as an indecipherable enigma, but as a hidden truth that has always been there, waiting to be perceived. Interestingly, this also teaches us about life's decisions. How often, faced with a crucial moment, do we not find the answer in direct advice, but in the silence that forces us to look within and choose responsibly? In faith, as in life, there are times when God and Mary seem not to give us clear instructions, but invite us to mature through the process of searching. It's a practice of inner listening, a strengthening of our spiritual autonomy, and it's not just about introspection. A silent message also has a collective impact. When an entire community feels the same echo coming from this silence, an invisible but powerful bond is created between people who may never have exchanged a word. It's as if everyone is connected by the same frequency, sharing the same sense of urgency, solace, or calling. It is at this point that silence becomes not only communication, but also communion. Ultimately, what Mary seems to teach us with this way of speaking is that not everything needs to be explained to be understood. There is beauty and strength in allowing meaning to be constructed within each heart. And perhaps this is precisely what allows these silent messages to continue to reverberate for so long. They are not bound to a time, a language, or a format. They live in the deepest space of the human soul, that place that is only touched when we open ourselves to hear what cannot be said. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because understanding the value of this silence is only the beginning. The true impact comes when we realize how it shapes our attitudes, redefines our paths, and becomes a constant guide, even when the world around us seems confusing and noisy. And it is at this point that the silent message ceases to be a distant mystery and becomes a living part of our journey. Comment there. That makes sense to me. The spiritual echo is not born from a loud bang, but from something almost imperceptible. It's like a drop falling gently onto the calm surface of a lake. The moment it touches the water, the sound seems small, almost timid, but the waves that form expand far beyond the point of impact. So it is with Mary's presence, subtle gesture, a gaze that seems to pierce layers of the soul, a moment of silence that settles and, suddenly, begins to reverberate within us. This echo doesn't dissolve in time. It mingles with our breathing, our thoughts, our prayers. Often it begins with something simple, an unexpected moment of peace in the midst of a turbulent day, an image that pops into your mind during prayer, or even a physical sensation, as if someone had placed a hand on your shoulder when no one was around. At first, you might try to explain it, to search for logic, but you realize it doesn't fit the usual explanations. That's when the echo begins silent, but insistent. The curious thing is that this spiritual echo is unhurried. It doesn't demand that you understand everything at once. On the contrary, it settles within you and waits for the right moment to manifest itself with greater force. It may be hours, days, even years after the first touch, but when it returns, it's as if it reactivates something that had been dormant. It's a calling that doesn't disappear, only transforms as you advance in your journey of faith. It's like walking through a valley and hearing, in the distance, a sound you know isn't produced by anything you can see. It comes from a place that seems both distant and close at hand. You keep walking, and suddenly the sound blends with your own footsteps. With the beating of your heart, it becomes a part of you. And once that happens, there's no going back to the previous silence. Because now the echo has shaped the way you feel and perceive the world. The impact of this echo is that it's not limited to the moment of experience. It begins to influence your decisions, how you react to situations, how you view people, and even how you deal with your own fears. It's as if each time this inner sound repeats itself, it realigns your compass, reminding you of the direction you need to follow. It doesn't push, it doesn't force, it simply guides with a calm firmness. Behind the scenes of spiritual life, it is this echo that keeps the flame burning when everything around seems to want to extinguish it. It is the constant reminder that an encounter has taken place, that there is a hidden truth sustaining your faith, even when you cannot see it clearly. It is like the roots of a tree, invisible to the eye, but firm enough to keep the trunk standing in the most violent storms. And when that echo is awakened by Mary's presence, it carries with it a unique tone. It's not the sound of demand or fear, but of insistent tenderness. It's the unspoken voice that says, "I am here. Keep going." And somehow, even without words, that certainty is enough to keep us moving. The most beautiful thing is realizing that this echo feeds on our own openness. The more we are willing to listen, the stronger it grows. And as it grows stronger, it begins to spread, touching those around us as well. A gesture, a smile, an act of compassion, all of these can become a vehicle for this echo, which is now no longer just yours, but part of a silent network of love that spreads without fanfare. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because understanding how this echo forms is only the beginning. The real mystery lies in why it persists, what it carries, and where it wants to lead us. It is on this path that we begin to realize that silence is not absence, but presence in its purest and most transformative form. Comment there. I'm on this journey too. When we talk about Medjugorje, it's impossible to ignore a point that, for many, is the essence of the mystery surrounding that place. The 7 unrevealed messages. We're not talking about simple notes or spiritual recommendations that could be read in any devotional pamphlet. This is something closely guarded, known only to a small group of visionaries, and which remains shrouded in an almost sacred silence. It's a secret that breathes within time, waiting for the right moment to be pronounced. The very idea that these messages exist provokes a mixture of fascination and unease. After all, why would something from Mary intended for humanity be kept secret? This question opens the door to theories, deeper prayers, and a special kind of expectation that, when the time comes, these words or perhaps warnings will carry such weight that they will change not only the way we see the world, but the very direction of our spiritual history. According to reports, each seer was given the responsibility of guarding and transmitting a portion of this content when the appointed moment arrived. They know what was said, carry this revelation in their hearts, and, as directed, maintain silence. This, in itself, speaks volumes. It's not a silence of forgetfulness or negligence, but of obedience and purpose. It's as if there were an invisible script for the next chapters of the human journey, and only a few pages had been revealed. The mystery barrier isn't just about not knowing. It's also about understanding that we may not be ready to know. This is where the dimension of preparation comes in, a time to strengthen faith, purify intentions, and adjust our mindset. If the messages were revealed too soon, they could lose their impact or, worse, be misinterpreted, generating fear instead of transformation. That's why, for some, this secret is an act of love as much as a warning. Some believe that these messages contain predictions about world events, catastrophes, signs in the heavens, radical changes in life as we know it. Others speak of a time of testing, of definitive decisions between light and darkness, between what is eternal and what is fleeting. And still others believe that the messages are not just warnings about what is to come, but precise instructions for navigating these times faithfully and steadfastly. Whatever their content, the fact is that these 7 messages became part of a silent pact between Mary and the visionaries. It's a trust that never breaks, a commitment that transcends any external pressure. There's something deeply human and, at the same time, divine in this surrender, carrying within yourself something the world wants to know, but which you can only reveal when the time is right. It's a weight that shapes the soul, transforming each prayer into an act of responsibility. This mystery also invites us to reflect on our own lives. How often do we keep something we know can only be shared when the circumstances are right? How often can a hidden truth only be spoken when the other person's heart is ready to receive it? In this sense, the 7 unrevealed messages are more than a religious secret. They are a reminder that not everything is revealed immediately, and that time is essential for any revelation that has real impact. As I imagine the moment these messages surface, I can't help but wonder about the effect they will have. It won't just be an announcement. It will be like opening a floodgate that releases long pent-up water, intense, transformative, unstoppable. And somehow, all of us, even without knowing the content, are already being prepared for that day. Every prayer, every interchange, every decision made with greater awareness and faith is a step in this silent preparation. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because more than the content itself, the true enigma lies in the purpose of this silence, in what it reveals about us and about the way God chooses to act in the world. And it is at this point that we realize that waiting is not passive, but an active part of the transformation that is to come. Comment there. That makes sense to me. When we think of Mary's silence in the face of these 7 messages, it's easy to be tempted to imagine it as simply an absence of speech, an empty space waiting for words. But in reality, her silence is charged with meaning, and perhaps one of the purest and most powerful forms of communication that exists. It's not an indifferent silence, but a chosen silence, presented as an act of love, protection, and, above all, preparation. Love is present precisely in the patience of waiting for the right moment. Imagine a doctor who knows exactly which treatment to apply, but must wait for the patient's body to be strong enough to receive it. Mary's silence is like this. She knows the hidden truth. She knows what is to come, but she prefers to allow our hearts to mature before placing the weight of certain revelations upon them. This care is, in itself, a gesture of compassion, a way of preserving our ability to walk in faith without being suffocated by fear or anxiety. There's also the protective dimension. Revealing too soon could expose us to distorted interpretations, impulsive reactions, or even premature despair. Silence, in this case, acts as a shield, filtering out what we're not yet ready to face. It's like a mother who sees danger in the distance but chooses not to alarm her child until absolutely necessary, so that he doesn't live imprisoned by constant worry. This kind of silence doesn't weaken it, strengthens. And there is also the function of preparing for future times. Keeping these messages secret is not only a way to avoid revelation, it is, at the same time, a call to prepare ourselves more deeply and consciously. It is as if, by remaining silent, Mary is saying, you have the time you need to strengthen yourselves, to grow in prayer, to adjust your decisions and priorities. This silent preparation is often more transformative than an explicit warning, because it forces us to seek meaning on our own, to develop a more vigilant and resilient mindset. When we look at the history of faith, we realize that God often works this way. Moses spent years in the desert before leading the people. Joseph was imprisoned before reaching the palace. And even Jesus lived for decades in anonymity before beginning his ministry. The silence in these cases was not a void, but a strategic period, where every detail was being aligned behind the scenes. With Mary, it is no different. Silence about these messages may be the most important phase of the process, the one in which the foundation is laid before the visible structure is erected. There's something deeply challenging about this kind of waiting. Humans tend to want immediate answers, to seek quick revelations, as if that would solve their anxiety. But more often than not, it's not the answer that changes our lives, it's the journey we take to get there. It's on this journey that we learn to trust, discern, shape our character, and draw closer to God more authentically. This silence can also be seen as a test of attention. It invites us to stop waiting only for grand signs and to notice the small clues that are already around us. Mary's protection can be found in a simple impulse to pray more, the intuition to forgive someone, or the courage to change a habit that distances us from our faith. Instead of grand speeches, she guides us through subtle, almost imperceptible touches that carry a lasting impact. And perhaps the most beautiful thing of all is realizing that this silence doesn't leave us standing. Still, it moves us, it spurs us to act, to decide, to seek the truth more deeply. It's a reminder that preparing for what's to come depends not only on what we hear in the future, but on what we're doing now. Then, when the time comes, we won't be caught off guard, but found ready. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because understanding the reason for this silence is just the surface. What truly transforms us is understanding how it acts within us, shaping our posture, our choices, and the way we see the journey ahead. Comment there. I'm on this journey too. Silence, when born of love, is neither empty nor distant. It is a fertile space where the soul can flourish. Mary, with her maternal touch, seems to understand better than anyone that certain transformations don't happen to the sound of fiery speeches, but in retreat, in intimate contact with God, where each person is invited to face themselves without filters. This kind of silence is like a half-open door. It doesn't force anyone to enter, but gently invites them to take the next step toward a profound encounter. The absence of direct words is often what pushes us toward true reflection. When there is no ready answer, we are forced to search within ourselves and before God for what we so desperately seek. It is at this point that conversion ceases to be merely an external change, an adjustment of behavior, and becomes something internal, deeply rooted. It becomes a reordering of our entire life, of our thoughts, our priorities, our daily decisions. Many who have witnessed moments of profound silence on their spiritual journey describe this experience as a mirror. Without words to distract us, all that remains is to face who we truly are. And in this reflection, we see both the wounds and the possibilities for healing. Mary, by falling silent at certain moments, seems to create this mirror so we can perceive where we need transformation. It's as if she's saying, I can show the way, but it's you who must take the steps. This relationship between silence and love also carries a very personal power of impact. The love that silences is the one that respects the other's time, that doesn't pressure, but rather sustains. It's like a presence that doesn't impose itself, but also doesn't withdraw. It's there, steadfast, waiting for the moment the heart decides to open. And when that happens, conversion isn't the result of fear or imposition, but of a genuine desire to draw closer to the source of life. There's an essential detail here. The conversion born of this loving silence is almost always more lasting, because it wasn't motivated by impulse or fleeting emotion, but by an internal process of understanding and surrender. It's the kind of change that doesn't need applause or external approval, because it has already found meaning in the very act of turning to God, and this meaning is so solid that it withstands the trials, doubts, and even the falls that may come later. If we think about it, every deep relationship goes through moments of silence that unite. Parents and children, longtime friends, couples in love, they all have those moments when no words are needed for understanding. The same happens in the spiritual life. There are moments when God and Mary say nothing, but the soul understands everything. It's a type of communication that can't be explained logically, but is felt with the whole being. It is at this point that silence ceases to be seen as absence and reveals itself as intense presence. It becomes a space where grace works without our noticing, a time where faith grows stronger without fanfare. And the more we learn to remain in this silence, the closer we come to a transformed life, because we begin to see things in a different light, clearer, truer, more purposeful. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because this connection between silence, love, and conversion not only shapes our individual journey, but also redefines how we relate to the world and to those God places in our path. It is in this flow that we realize that, often, the strongest love is not the one that speaks loudly, but the one that teaches us to listen. Comment there. That makes sense to me. There are stories that don't need the spotlight to be great, because they carry within them an intensity that only those who have experienced them can understand. In Medjugorje and many other places where Marian devotion flourishes, stories of people who felt Mary's presence and love without hearing a single word multiply. It's as if the communication happened on a deeper level, where sounds and phrases aren't necessary for the heart to understand. A woman told me that, during a sleepless night, overcome with worries about her distant son, she decided to pray the rosary in silence. She didn't ask for anything, didn't formulate elaborate phrases, she just stood there, holding the beads, letting each Hail Mary become a breath. Suddenly, she felt a gentle warmth, as if someone had placed a cloak around her shoulders. There was no one in the house, but the sensation was so real that she began to cry. There was no voice, no vision, but the fear that had consumed her dissolved, giving way to an inexplicable peace. Another testimony comes from a man who, in the midst of a personal crisis, traveled to Medjugorje without knowing exactly why. During the climb to Mount Podbrodo, where the first apparition occurred, he was overcome by such an intense feeling of gratitude that he had to stop halfway. There was no music, no speeches, just the sound of the wind. He said that, in that moment, he understood he was being invited to forgive himself, something he had avoided for years. This invitation came not through words, but through a presence that spoke directly to his oldest wound. There are also accounts of dreams. A young woman said that for months she had been asking Maria for a sign that she was on the right path. One night, she dreamed that she was walking down a narrow road with sharp stones, and in the distance, she saw a woman dressed in white, smiling. The woman said nothing, but extended her hand, and when the young woman touched it, she felt the stones no longer hurt her feet. Upon waking, she realized that the journey would not get easier, but that she would not be alone. Experiences like these show that Mary's love and presence are not limited to verbal messages. It is a love that manifests itself in subtle gestures, in unexpected sensations, in signs that only those who are attentive can perceive. For some, it may be the sudden urge to pray in the middle of a busy day. For others, an unlikely encounter that brings exactly the answer they were seeking. These signs often go unnoticed by those who live on autopilot, constantly distracted by the noise of the world. But for those who learn to silence themselves, they become as clear as a sentence written before their eyes. It's as if Mary were saying, "I am here, even when you can't hear me." And this certainty, for many, is the fuel that keeps their faith alive on the most difficult days. That it's curious how these testimonies, though different in detail, have something in common. They all describe a before and after. No one returns the same from an encounter with this kind of presence. The transformation can be subtle or profound, but it always leaves a mark. It's as if the soul receives a reminder that there is an invisible network of care and protection operating behind the scenes of life. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject, because, by understanding how these signs manifest, we realize that they are not isolated events, but part of an ongoing dialogue between heaven and earth, a conversation that only needs an open heart to be heard. Comment there. I'm on this journey to listening to what isn't said is an art the modern world has almost made us forget. We live surrounded by constant noise, immediate opinions, notifications that compete for our attention every second. And in this scenario of excess, the most important voice, the one that speaks without words, often gets lost. This is why Mary's invitation to inner listening is so urgent and necessary. It's not just devotional advice, it's a call to rediscover the clarity that only arises in silence. Inner listening begins when we are willing to create space for it to happen. It's a simple yet profound gesture, turning off the noise, closing our eyes, and allowing our minds to slow down. In silent prayer, for example, we don't need to present a script of requests or craft flawless phrases. We simply need to be present. It is in this state of presence that, little by little, we begin to perceive nuances, a memory that returns, an idea that sparks, a sense of peace that has no logical explanation. This is how the soul responds when it finally has the chance to be heard. Meditation, in this context, is like a workout for the heart. It's not just about emptying the mind, but about making space for what's essential to reveal itself. It can be done in absolute silence or accompanied by a brief reading of scripture, which becomes the starting point for an inner dialogue. A single biblical phrase, repeated and reflected upon, can become a bridge between our hectic world and the spiritual depth Mary desires for us to reach. Reading scripture, in fact, is a privileged way to fine-tune this sensitivity. When we read slowly, without rushing to finish, allowing each word to settle in our hearts, we realize that the sacred text begins to come to life within us. There are passages that seem to have been written for that exact moment in our journey. It is in this intimate connection between word and life that many of the silent answers manifest themselves. And, of course, Marian devotion is a sure path to cultivating this listening. Praying the rosary, for example, is not just a mechanical repetition of prayers, but a rhythm that calms the mind and opens the soul. Each Hail Mary becomes a step inward, bringing us closer to that serenity that allows us to hear what is unsaid. By meditating on the mysteries, we begin to realize that Mary doesn't speak only in the extraordinary moments of apparitions. She also speaks in everyday gestures, in the ordinary situations in which we feel the need to act with more love, more patience, more surrender. This process of spiritual sensitivity doesn't happen overnight. It's cultivated, nourished by discipline and sincere desire. It's like tuning an instrument. At first, it may be difficult to perceive the subtle changes, but over time, the melody begins to sound clearer, more in tune. Gradually, we learn to recognize when a thought is merely the result of our agitation and when it carries that silent peace that indicates true inspiration. Perhaps the most transformative aspect of this invitation to inner listening is that it changes us from within, even before any concrete revelation. We begin to live differently, less reactive, more attentive, more aware of the decisions we make. It's as if we begin to walk not only with our feet, but also with our hearts awake. And this change, silent and persistent, is a living testament to the fact that Mary's presence doesn't need words to guide us. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because inner listening, when well cultivated, not only brings us closer to God but also makes us instruments for others to perceive this presence in the world. And that's when silence begins to multiply into waves of transformation. Comment there. That makes sense to me. Even when the heavens seem quiet and words fail to reach our ears, one certainty remains. Mary continues to guide us. Her love doesn't depend on visible appearances or explicit messages, because it expresses itself in much more subtle ways, reaching the heart at just the right moment. It's the silent care that keeps you from giving up on a difficult day, the unexpected strength that emerges when you no longer have the energy to continue, the profound peace that suddenly appears, even when everything around you is in turmoil. Silence is not absence, but presence in its purest form. It's like the shadow of a tree on a hot day. You may not see the wind moving the leaves, but you feel the coolness and know you're being protected. This is how Mary acts, constant, firm, almost imperceptible to those who observe from the outside, but undeniable to those who experience it. And when we begin to notice this, something shifts in our mindset. We begin to live no longer waiting for spectacular signs, but recognizing the extraordinary hidden in the small details. This understanding also teaches us to trust the process more. We won't always have all the answers, nor will we always understand the why of things as they happen. But we can be assured that we are not alone on this journey. There is a love that accompanies us, shapes us, and prepares us, even when we can't clearly perceive it. It's a kind of spiritual backstage, where everything is carefully aligned so that in due time, we can understand and experience what God has for us. And it's precisely this realization that transforms, because when you realize you're being guided, even without hearing anything, you begin to live with more courage, serenity, and hope. Decisions are no longer made solely based on what's visible, but also consider what's felt deep inside. It's as if each step is taken not just with your feet, but with your heart aligned with something greater. So I want this to be more than just a video for you to watch. I want it to be an invitation for you to notice, in your own life, those silent moments when Mary was present. Perhaps it was in a solitary prayer, in a dream that left its mark, in a moment when you felt an invisible embrace. These episodes are no coincidence. They are the echo of her love reverberating within you, shaping your faith and renewing your hope. And if, somehow, while listening to all this, you remembered a moment when you felt this silent presence, share it with me in the comments using the phrase, "The echo reached me." This way, not only will you record your experience, but you'll also allow others to read it and realize they're not alone on this journey. Often, one person's testimony strengthens another's faith, creating a silent but powerful network of prayer and encouragement. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject, because there is a dimension to this silence and this presence that goes beyond what we experience individually, something that connects our paths to a collective purpose. As if each personal story were a piece of a much larger plan, woven with patience and love. If you've made it this far, it's because this message, in some way, spoke to you. And that's why I want to invite you to continue this journey with me. If this content brought clarity, hope, or simply warmed your heart, subscribe to the channel so we can continue together, delving even deeper into these topics that touch the soul and strengthen faith. And since you stayed until the end, leave the phrase "I'm with you until the end" in the comments. It'll be our way of recognizing each other as part of this same journey. Oh, and don't forget to like it, not only because it helps the video, but because it's the simplest way to show that this connection resonated with you. And look, there's a video right here that complements this topic and will take you even deeper into this reflection. Click and follow me there.